Well, welcome to a special interview with the police minister on the whereabouts of Mr. Duduzane Zuma, as well as the Gupta brothers. Now joined me in studio is Minister Mbalula. Minister, thank you very much for making your time.
Thank you, Bulala.
Can you give us an update with regards to the whereabouts of the Gupta brothers, as well as Mr. Duduzane Zuma?
Well, let me start it from where it started. First, you know that there is what is called a Stina Freddy Dairy Project. There's lots of money that was destined for a project that were to benefit the poor, Africans in particular, to empower them. That was embezzled and went missing, and the police had to investigate. In that investigation, it came to head and a conclusion in which 13 suspects were actually identified and warrant of arrest were actually served. Of these 13, 8 of those have been arrested, both in the Free State and Johannesburg. Because of high-profile nature of the Gupta family, do we have people in that family? Yes. Who are they? We are constrained by the law to name suspects before they appear in court. Yes, there are people in the family of the Guptas. You ask about Duduzane, equally, it is a matter that is a subject of the process of issuing of warrant of arrest, and him being a suspect and so on. It is a matter that is subject to the law prescripts of the Republic, and we can't deviate from that. Ajay Gupta is actually been sought, is one who's been sought of the 5, because they approach his lawyers, the law enforcement agency, which is the Hawks, our elite group. And then upon that, they've now been playing cat and mouse and all of that, going back and forth. You don't do that with the law. So that is why he's been declared by the Hawks as a fugitive, because he offered to cooperate and hand himself over. And then in the address where he lives, he's been sought, and everywhere else. So there's a red alert in the Republic. It has been discovered of the 5 that have been sought, they are out of the country. They will be followed up. And of those 5, 3 of those are out of the country, 2 are of Indian descent, and 1 Chinese. You see, so wherever they are, Interpol, with our relations with Interpol and the police, together with the laws that govern us and in the bilateral with other countries, they will be sought and be brought to South Africa to stand trial, or otherwise they can hand themselves over in a form of cooperation. So there is no relaxation on this particular matter. More arrests and warrant of arrest are out, and we expect some of these people to appear in court. 8 of them have already appeared.
Is there an indication of where the whereabouts of these people who are out of the country? Do you have any idea where they are?
The idea is there. It points to China, Dubai, India. So all of those areas will be the areas of focus for the police. From the point of view of the ministry, in terms of the bilaterals we have actually searched, we'll also seek for cooperation in that regard. But there is nothing that says they escaped, because they left on their own, probably on their own business, whatever that is the case. But now that they are basically sought, they will be sought and followed up in those countries where they've gone to. The world is very small. We operate through Interpol, we operate through bilateral. If ever you resist, there will be extradition. We have that with other countries, others we don't have. But all means necessary will be employed to ensure that these people are brought to book, because justice must be seen to be done, especially where lots of monies have disappeared and they've been reported and the police have investigated, and more arrests will also follow in relation to these particular matters, because that money is the money of the poor. It is the money of the taxpayer. And it can never happen that the police leave that, untouched. There are no untouchables. It doesn't matter who you are. If ever you are found to be having something to do with that, you must come to book. Last week we arrested people in KwaZulu-Natal who spent 28 million on a concert that never took place. They must know that the rule of law will actually grind in this particular instance. And I can assure you that there will be more bombs that are coming in the so-called state capture reports that have been there. I mean, police have never actually put their foot down. These matters have been attended to. And the goodwill that is there and the new president who says that, chase them. I want corruption-free South Africa. It will amplify the efforts of the police to do their work without fear or favor, which is what is important for the Republic.
Now, at this stage, do you know when you may likely make any arrests?
Arrest will be made anytime. The revolution will not be televised. Safe to say that there will be more arrests that will be made. Investigations have been undertaken without prejudice to ensure that things are followed properly. And when you take people to court, it is not just a witch hunt. Because it's easy today to say that I'm being hounded for this political reason and that political reason. We don't want police that work like that. We want police that work freely, without prejudice, without pressure, and then work very hard to ensure that even if you think about any corrupt activity or fraud, that there is law enforcement. All of the things that are there, some in the public domain, some not there, are actually being attended to by our units, and they've been working very hard as early as last year, around July and so on. They've been working very hard on these cases.
Now, as police, are you investigating the role of any politicians with regards to the Freedom Day?
The law doesn't have, is blind. You will know that there were raids that were undertaken. So it doesn't matter. I mean, if you are a politician, you are a nobody, you are a well talked about guy in town, there are no holy cows and there are no untouchables. And in this particular instance, the law will not be unfair on anyone. It will act without prejudice, without fear or favor. So we are not newspapers. And that is what we say to police officers and our agencies. You are not in the political terrain. Do your job as much as you can to rid our country of the cancer of corruption. And that is what is important.
But the question is whether are you going to be investigating the role of the former MEC in the Free State, who's now the Minister of Mineral Resources, Mr. Mosebenzi Zwane, as well as the Premier of the Free State, who is the ANC Secretary General.
The whole ministry and whoever is involved with that are under the microscope of the law. And you will know that there were raids that were made by the Hawks in the offices of government in the Free State, because these decisions were taken by government in that particular instance. So there are no issues in relation to who will be investigated. What we don't want is to portray this thing as though it is a target. You know, when the police arrested people in KZN, they said, no, it's politics of the ANC, people have been chased. We said, no, police must do their job. And then when police raided the Free State government, in terms of the offices of the Premier and whoever there, they said, no, it is ANC politics again. We said, no, we shouldn't do that because we hamstrung the law enforcement agencies and basically bring them into the terrain of politics where there is none. It is a well-known fact, documented, well-written about the question of Estina, for instance. The issue of the concert that never happened. Why do people think that these things will not be investigated? And therefore, if there is any wrongdoing, the law must grind. Why do they think? Where do we live in this country? The task of the police, if somebody comes to the inquiry of ESCOM, and there is blatant, rampant corruption reported there, the task of the police is not to become politicians and ask questions in the inquiry and all of, is to follow up on the corruption that is reported. Then, if the police are not going to do that, we live in a banana republic. It will be a banana republic. South Africa will be something that will be of the past. Those things, they must know when you report in the newspapers that this and that, police all the time follow up on that. And I said to the police as the minister, don't answer the question about perceptions that you are lukewarm, you are lackluster, you are not determined and courageous to fight corruption. If society says that about the Hawks, for instance, your job is not to argue with society. Go and do your job. To demonstrate to society that you do your job without fear or favor. But if things, blatant, rampant corruption is reported, is business as usual, nothing, you are not raided for what is reported, then it means we're in a state in which everybody can do as they wish. And I've said, we don't want minnows chasing people in the streets who are minnows. We arrest them, we bring them to book. Operation Takedown, it means you take the masterminds. That goes to Marikana, those who are killing each other there, we take them down. That goes to the syndicates. That goes to those who are implicated in corruption, black and white. You can be Steinhoff, you can be Estina, they must be brought to book. The law must grind. And that's what is important.
All right. I want to bring you back to your earlier statement that we should expect bombs in this investigation. Can you give us more light with regards to that?
By bombs, I mean the unexpected, because society and largely the Fourth Estate said there is paralysis in terms of law enforcement agency. From my point, I've long said, as early as last year, that police are doing their job. After I met with the Hawks, and I said to them, there is this perception that you need to deal with. But when I came in as a minister, there were leadership challenges. You know, there was change. General Ntemeza was being challenged. We had to put him aside. And the law agreed that we need to put him aside. Now we have advertised. These agencies will be strengthened going forward. And big up to those who took up the baton to run with it when they were given an opportunity. But their very nature is not people who are talkative. They talk through actions. So from where I'm seated, I've not had any confusion. I've received reports that police are doing their job. These things have been followed. Otherwise, I will be sick to the bone if ever all of these things that are happening around us are not being investigated and so on. So they are investigated, but it will not be televised. It will happen as and when it happens, you will see. We are investigating more than 17 cases in the so-called state of capture. And some of those cases, I will not tell you how many, are ready for prosecution. So it is ongoing, this work. It is ongoing. And that work is amplified by the government with the positive coming in of the administration of President Ramaphosa. And the ANC's January 8th statement that says that act against corruption without fear or favor. And amplified by that message, it means there is a sense of urgency. It means over and above that, we must be unambiguous and very vociferous and decisive in dealing with acts of corruption in the Republic.
All right, I want us to shift now to the issue of Mr. Duduzane Zuma. Can you confirm whether a warrant of arrest has been issued for him and what does it relate to?
I cannot confirm the issue of the warrant of arrest of Mr. Duduzane Zuma and whether or not it's been sought. Because, like I explained, in terms of our prescript, an individual who has actually been sought will be chased and found in the place of where he or she lives. And then only upon appearance in court will that person's identity be revealed.
But are you looking for him?
The issue of whether or not it's been looked after and it's been searched and so on, it's a question that I'm not privileged to answer because I'm not either an operative of the law in relation to the Hawks. But if he's actually found, if he's actually been searched or the police are looking for him, the best option for anyone who's sought by the police is to appear or hand himself in court to cooperate with the law enforcement agencies. unless you want the status of being declared a fugitive in your own country. So I don't think that should be the route. But to an extent that Duduzane Zuma in particular has been sought, I'm not privileged to answer that particular question.
All right, Minister, on unrelated matters to this issue, there's been a debate on social media around the arrest of the killers of the former Bafana captain, Senzo Meyiwa. Can you bring us to speed as to how far is the investigation and whether are there any imminent arrests for that case?
There will be arrests. It's a very complicated case in a sense that it has been complicated. I don't want us to relate to the case on the basis of the media, social media discourse. All what is important for us, and which is what I can confirm with you, is that once General Sithole came in, and even before that, and when I came in as the minister, there are two cases I asked about. It was Senzo Meyiwa and Botswana. Because for me, I felt that there is something there. And we can't give up. You see, we can't give up. And with the arrival of Sithole as the permanent general of the police and our crime detection head, General Zumani, they immediately focused on that. By the time Periru was doing rounds in the social media, police had already been acting. I went to Natal especially to see Senzo's father. I'm supposed to go back because I realized there also there are things that we did not finish when I left in terms of government. The tombstone was not done of Senzo, which is what we're supposed to go back and do. And obviously their sponsors were doing that particular thing. There are issues in terms of the family that they want to bring closer. But over and above that, it was the arrest. And I briefed him. And he poured his heart out. He's very hurt. And I understand. And then he told me what he told me. And then I sent police to go and see him as early as last week. And I asked him, don't talk. I've got a special team now that reinforces all those investigators who are doing this job. We're trying to clean out. Now, the problem is that you can treat people as suspects, but when you are smart in the investigative approach, you cannot basically make a determination about people and basically come to a conclusion about them. As much as society want justice to be seen to be done, you must remember in the case of Senzo, they have already made conclusions. Now, law doesn't function like that. It functions in a different way. You investigate to the end. I can sell a story to you and say that this person I was with in this house was killed for the following reasons. As an investigator, you go beyond that. That's why investigators even investigate Motlolagadi. I mean, the person oswelegeleyo ebefake iduku etheni bafika bathi here are the questions. How did this person die? How did you know each other? Person will be crying. That is the nature of the investigation, because you cannot leave everything simply by being told this is the story. And Chico, and then attacking me and all of that. But Chico, I know him for many years, you see, and I've been very close to him and so on. But here we're dealing with the law. And my position comes with a burden of being hated even by friends for things that are beyond my power. You see, it is not business as usual. The matter is with the police. I've got no luxury to exchange phone calls and dinners with him. I've got no such business. And is better protected when he subjects himself to the police investigation, not to radio talks and justifying yourself to the public. You didn't do it. It won't help. The issue is that if you are innocent, you stand with that word, and then you say that I've subjected myself to the police, and that's it. This is the law. That's how it functions. It is not. You don't cut corners. You see. So I empathize with him about the fact that he says he's innocent, but it is not in my hands. All what I have to do as a minister is to ensure that the police that I command, that I run, are doing their job. And I've done that. And I'm happy they are continuing, they are giving feedback. I said, do your job without fear or favor. Bring the killers of Senzo to book. Use everything at our disposal, money included, to bring them to book. Employ all the resources. And I'm confident with that we'll find them. I cannot give you the date and say tomorrow and all of that, how close we are, we're very close. That step is over because those who were supposed to do that did not do it. But I can tell you we're on top of it, and we've got some of our best investigators on the case.
All right, I want to move to another topic now. You've just come from the Eastern Cape to communicate the recall of former President Jacob Zuma. How has that been received by the branches?
Look, I was in the Eastern Cape. I just arrived in Cape Town. Tomorrow we have a debate. Look, when I arrived there, our comrades were very much excited about the turn of events. There was no triumphalism, meaning winners, like people who wanted to see President Zuma leave. There was a lot of excitement that our movement has emerged. They were more worried about taking the matter to a vote of no confidence. And the fact that President Zuma took a decision upon himself to resign, look, that was a great relief because it would have meant that the ANC will have to go for him. Remember that the decision even by the NEC to recall President Zuma was not the first on the table. It was a last resort, last resort. As much as there were people who would have wanted that right from the onset, but the ANC took a long-winded to show that it cares. It has got no vengeance or whatsoever. President Ramaphosa led from the front in that regard. People will say things about him that he's a coward. Today they praise him for a wonderful Sona speech, but 2 weeks back they said he's a coward. But that's what leaders do. They take unpopular decisions. And the detour from disallowing the NEC to get into the issue whilst it was hot, and there were sorts of blames that why we need to act now and all of that, it shows leadership. President Zuma himself, had his views about how things were supposed to be done in a monologue interview where he poured his heart out, but finally he realized what is in the best interest of the ANC. And that is what is important. I'm from the Eastern Cape, so the decision was welcomed by all and sundry, and I gave them a report back, and then I apologize for us having to come back to them after the decision. But they're nonetheless happy that the leadership they elected in Nazareth acted responsibly, and that is what is important.
Now, lastly, before I let you go, you must have read newspapers this morning around maybe possible cabinet reshuffle. Are you in any position to comment around whether your future in cabinet, does it worry you and other colleagues who are seen as staunch Zuma supporters?
I know that there are people who are basically victors and triumphalists and who will not look at things objectively. In the organization, they think that the organization is in that mode. I believe that reshuffle must come by the new president, where he sees, and by the ANC leadership of the top 6. They must reflect on these issues. Where they feel they need to make a reshuffle, they must do that without fear or favor, to strengthen the movement, to strengthen our capacity within government, to ensure that we are able to deliver for the people of South Africa. I don't think the leadership of the ANC will be that immature to look at things from the perspective of who stood where at the level of conference. And that's why I said in one broadcaster, if I were to judge on the basis of where I stood in the conference and I'm removed for my views, then I'll be the happiest. Because it means I don't have leadership. I've got just a group of people who think about feelings and they've got no interest for the movement. I will never ask a question because it's not allowed. When you are redeployed, you are redeployed. Should that happen to me, I will not cry. It has happened to other comrades. It means the leadership have sat down, have considered issues, and have arrived at a decision. Till today, I don't know why I was removed as deputy minister, but except that I was unhappy with Nati. We were not working nicely, and I was hurt most of the time, and I wanted to work. And we didn't have a good relationship somehow. And then I went to sports. I was not given the reasons. I was told that this is what you must do. I was told by the president that I'm now moving you from sports to the police. I want you to assist us. I want you to work very hard to fight crime. And this is what I've done to the best of my ability. I've not finished a year, and so on. But these things do happen, Mr. Phillips. If it happens, it happened. And that is why I took to Twitter, because I was being tormented by overzealous individuals who probably look at Mbalula as a phenomenon they don't like. And some of them probably, they were disappointed I did not support them in their line with regard to Nazareth. And then I responded to them that let's not blackmail the president or those who take decisions about anything. If you recall, you reshuffle, I'm ready to move on. I will never organize a protest. I will never do anything to suggest that leadership were not supposed to act. I'm aware. I'm a politician. ANC has armed me with tools of analysis. I'm aware that certain things will come with the new change and the new vibe in the mix, but that will consider all the facts on the table. We are a movement that has come out of a conference, and there will be an in-depth analysis about what is in the best. But I don't think that cabinet will be disbanded. And people say, why didn't people resign with President Zuma? I mean, why should that happen? We didn't join Zuma. We joined the ANC. And President Zuma himself will be the first to say that. Why should we go with him? And all of that. And by the way, the removal of the president has got nothing to do with Nazareth. Even if Nkosazana had won, we're still going to deal with the question of the motion of no confidence, the issues of the charges against the president, the issue of the impeachment. Nkosazana herself, his NEC, was going to deal with that. That is why in this NEC, don't listen to lies. There's nobody in the NEC who stood and said president must not step down. It was a question of time. Nobody. It was unanimous. So if there's somebody who's lying to President Zuma or whoever that, hey, it's a lie. It's a lie. It was a unanimous decision. There was a difference. And in that difference, it was a few who were saying, yeah, well, 3 months. And then the question was, for what? Because we've got these challenges, we've got to move. We've got a party to run. We've got an organization to run. We've got an election to contest. Right? We love President Zuma. We would have wanted him to stay till end. But we've got these challenges. And that is it. So I'm saying objective, subjective factors, strategic initiative on the part of the movement. If you understand my language, now I'm going deep into the analysis. The ANC will consider always all of those things to say what is in the best interest of our movement. And in this instance, we have seized the initiative.
I want to smuggle this last question. Do you think the president should be charged? Or the former president, rather?
Look, the question of that nature, whether somebody needs to be charged or not, I don't want to entertain, because we are a law society. And I think it must be informed by those who are running the institutions to say whether they have a case. And on the part of the president, he also has got rights and recourse in relation to
within the party.
No, not within the party. It is out of the party now. It is out there in terms of President Zuma versus the state, or the state versus President Zuma. So those options come in that particular context.
The comments of him disagreeing with the decision of the NEC to recall him, does that warrant any disciplinary action against him?
No, I don't think so. I think at the end of the day, he had his views. It was not an altercation. I think he felt he's been treated unfairly. But at the end of the day, he has done the right thing. So I'm not in favor of charging President Zuma. That I will oppose. And I don't think in the ANC today, there's anybody who have come out with that particular decision. Nobody. in the NEC I serve with, the colleagues I'm with here in Parliament, nobody will ever come with a motion that President Zuma must be charged. Why do you chase somebody who has accepted to fall on his sword and departed? He's gone. And that is why you see it is quiet now. Even before the weekend, it is quiet. President Ramaphosa delivered a fantastic State of the Nation address, welcomed by all. We're moving on. So the challenges that President Zuma faces in the context of the law will be dealt with in that context. Not in any discussion that President Zuma had with the ANC leadership did he ask for favors about those issues. No issues of immunity that people are talking about. He did not. And even the president of the ANC confirmed that. So it is not on the agenda. If it is in the agenda, it is somewhere at night where me and you, we don't belong. So in relation to the formalities and transparency, that matter did not arise in those discussions. The NPA is expected to pronounce by the 28th on those charges and all of that, which is nothing new, and so on. So all of those matters belong there. The ANC has dealt with the matters. Those who are elected at Nazareth are now expected to lead going forward. And that's what is important for all of us.
All right, thank you so much, Minister Mbalula. Thank you for making time to speak to the SABC News. Well, that was a wide-ranging interview with the police minister, giving us an update on the whereabouts of some of the suspects in relation to the investigation of the Vrede dairy farm. On that note, Simpiwe will take it back to you in studio.